My sister flirted with my boyfriend and attacked me in front of my parents. 6 years later, she showed up at my door begging. But what I did at my wedding left everyone speechless. I'm 28 years old, getting married in 3 months, and 2 weeks ago, I basically detonated a nuclear bomb at my bridal shower that ended with my sister unemployed, my parents cutting off all contact with me, and half the event hall looking at me like I was the devil. But you know what? I don't regret it at all. I mean, maybe a little. But after what happened at that party, I think it was necessary for someone to tell the truth once and for all. I guess I should start from the beginning. When Christina and I were little girls. She's 26 now. I'm 28. And literally for as long as I can remember, our parents, Angela and Brian, made us compete for everything. Absolutely everything. It wasn't subtle either. It was like, who gets better grades? Who's prettier? Who has more friends? Who learns to ride a bike first? Who gets a boyfriend first? Who goes to the best university? My mom would literally sit us down at the breakfast table and say things like, Christina got an A in math. Let's see. Samantha, what did you get? And she'd just stand there waiting with that little smile. And I was like 8 years old, thinking that if I wasn't better than my sister, then I was worth nothing. And the worst part is that Christina and I were really close when we were little. Like we played together all the time, shared clothes, told each other secrets. But as we grew up, that competition, our parents fed like it was an Olympic sport, completely destroyed our relationship. By the time we got to high school, we barely talked to each other properly. I joined every possible club, got perfect grades, had like 50 extracurricular activities because I knew that's how my parents would pay attention to me. Christina, on the other hand, was more sociable, had more friends, was more fun at parties. And my parents used that to constantly compare us too. I remember perfectly one time at dinner when I was like 17 and Christina was 15. My dad said, "It's such a shame that Samantha is so serious. All the time. Look at Christina, how everyone loves her." And I just sat there with my fork in my hand thinking, did you seriously just say that in front of me? But it was normal in my house. Those kinds of comments were daily bread, and none of us questioned anything because that's just how things were. The truth is, I went away to college in another state as soon as I could. I needed to get away from that toxic dynamic because I was literally going crazy. Christina stayed closer to home, went to a local university, and during those years, our relationship was basically non-existent. We'd see each other at Christmas, Thanksgiving, exchange 2 words, and that was it. I started studying graphic design, got an amazing job after graduating, moved to the city, and honestly, I thought that by putting physical distance between my family and me, things would get better. Spoiler alert, they didn't get better. 6 years ago, when I was 22 and Christina was 20, I met Tyler. This man, I don't know. He was just different from everyone else I'd dated. He was kind. He really listened to me, made me laugh, and for the first time in my life, I felt like someone saw me as a complete person and not as the daughter who needed to be perfect all the time. We'd been dating for about 6 months when I decided to officially introduce him to my family. Big mistake. The biggest mistake of my life up to that point. We organized a dinner at my parents' house on a Saturday night. Tyler was nervous. I was nervous. But I thought everything would be fine because, it was just a normal family dinner. Christina arrived late as always, with that attitude of, the world revolves around me and everyone should wait for me. And from the moment Tyler and she greeted each other, I felt something weird in the air. I can't explain it exactly, but it was like a tension that shouldn't be there. During dinner, Christina wouldn't stop asking Tyler questions. Things like, so what do you do? How much do you make? Where do you live? Do you have a car? What kind of music do you like? Basically an interrogation, but with this super obvious flirty energy that was making my hair stand on end. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, is that my parents not only didn't say anything, but seemed to be enjoying it. My mom had that little smile she always put on when Christina did something she knew would bother me, and my dad kept pouring wine for Christina as if he wanted her to loosen up even more. Tyler, bless him, tried to keep the conversation neutral and would touch my hand under the table like saying, I'm here with you, but I could feel the blood boiling in my veins. After dinner, we moved to the living room and Christina sat literally right next to Tyler on the couch, like pressed against him when there were like 3 other available spaces in the entire room. She started touching his arm while talking, laughing exaggeratedly at everything he said, leaning towards him showing cleavage. And I was sitting there thinking, is this really happening? Is my younger sister openly flirting with my boyfriend in front of me and my parents? I tried to keep my composure because I didn't want to make a scene, but when Christina put her hand on Tyler's leg and told him in that all syrupy voice, "We should all hang out sometime," I bet Samantha doesn't let you have much fun. Something inside me just broke. I got up from the chair where I was sitting and said, "Christina, can we talk in the kitchen?" And she looked at me like, "Why are you so serious?" But she got up and followed me. As soon as we got to the kitchen and I closed the door, I said to her, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" And she played dumb like always. "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just being friendly." I told her, "Friendly my ass, Christina. You're flirting with my boyfriend in front of the whole family? Are you that desperate?" And that's when her face completely changed. She looked at me with so much hatred, so much accumulated rage, and said to me, "You know what, Samantha? You've always believed you're better than me, that you deserve more than me, but the truth is, you're a bitter person who can't stand someone else getting attention." And I responded without thinking, "At least I'm not a loser with no job living off my parents flirting with other people's boyfriends." I know. It was a low blow. But in that moment, I was so angry, so hurt, so fed up with a lifetime of competition and comparisons that I just let out the first thing that came to mind. And Christina, well, Christina completely lost control. She came at me, grabbed my hair with both hands, and started pulling me backwards while screaming at me, "I hate you. I hate you. I've always hated you." And I tried to get her off me, but she kept pulling my hair with so much force that I felt like she was going to rip out entire chunks. I managed to turn around and push her, and that's when she slapped me so hard that I'm sure it was heard in the living room. Tyler and my parents came running into the kitchen and found Christina screaming hysterically, and me with my face red, my hair all messed up, and tears of pure rage running down my cheeks. And you know what was the first thing my mom said? "Samantha, what did you do to your sister?" Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "What happened here?" But directly assuming I was the guilty one. My dad hugged Christina like she was the victim when she had literally just physically assaulted me. And I just stood there thinking, really? Really, after everything that just happened, you're going to take her side? Tyler took my arm and said, "Let's go." And we left that house without saying another word. In the car back to my apartment, I couldn't stop crying. Not so much from the physical pain, which honestly wasn't that bad, but from the betrayal, from realizing that my own parents were never going to be on my side, from finally understanding that this family dynamic was so broken it had no fix. That night, I made a decision. I cut off all contact with Christina. I blocked her number, deleted her from all social media, and when my parents tried to call me to mediate, I told them clearly, "If you want to have a relationship with me, never mention Christina to me again, and don't expect me to mention her either." For 6 years, I maintained that stance. 6 complete years without talking to my sister, without seeing her, without knowing anything about her life. My parents at first tried to convince me to forgive, that we were family, that it was silly, but I was firm in my decision. Tyler completely supported me, never pressured me to reconcile, never suggested I was overreacting, but he was just there for me while I processed all the trauma of growing up in a family that made us compete like we were fighting roosters. Fast forward to 3 months ago. Tyler proposed to me. I said yes, obviously, and we started planning the wedding. We decided to have a bridal shower. Nothing extravagant, just something intimate with my close friends, some cousins, my Aunt Judith, who's always been like a second mom to me, and that's it. I invited my parents because despite everything, they're my parents, and in these 6 years our relationship had been cordial, although distant, like we'd talk on the phone occasionally, see each other at some family gatherings where Christina wasn't there, and I thought we could maintain that uncomfortable peace, at least for my wedding. The bridal shower was in a nice venue, nothing luxurious but well decorated, with food, music, games, all very normal and fun. I was having a great time, laughing with my friends, opening gifts, taking pictures, when suddenly I see my parents walk in and behind them. Guess who? Christina. My brain literally froze for a second. I couldn't process what I was seeing. Christina standing there at my bridal shower after 6 years of not talking to her, after making it very clear to my parents that I didn't want anything to do with her, after everything that had happened. I approached my parents and said to them in a low voice, "What is she doing here?" And my mom, with that all sweet and manipulative voice she uses when she wants to play innocent, told me, Oh, Samantha, she's your sister. We couldn't leave her out of such an important moment in your life. It's been 6 years. It's time you get over it. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack right there. Get over it? Get over it? As if it were something insignificant. As if she hadn't physically assaulted me. As if she hadn't flirted with my boyfriend. As if the last 6 years hadn't existed. Christina approached me with this fake smile and said to me, "Hi, Samantha. You look beautiful. Congratulations on your wedding." And I just couldn't take it anymore. All my friends were watching. My Aunt Judith was watching. There were like 30 people in that venue waiting to see what was going to happen. And something inside me said, "You know, what? No, I'm not going to pretend anymore. I'm not going to act like everything's fine to keep up appearances." I stood in the middle of the venue and said out loud for everyone to hear, "Since you're all here, I want to share something. Christina, my dear sister that my parents brought without my permission to my bridal shower, 6 years ago, openly flirted with my current boyfriend at a family dinner. And when I confronted her, she physically attacked me, pulled my hair, slapped me, and my parents defended her. That's why we haven't spoken in 6 years. That's why I didn't invite her to my wedding. And that's why I'm going to ask all three of them to leave my party right now." The silence that followed was deafening. Christina turned red. My parents looked horrified. And my Aunt Judith, bless her, got up from her chair and said, "Is that true, Christina?" Christina tried to stammer something like, "It was a long time ago. It was a misunderstanding." But my aunt interrupted her and said, "Answer me. Is it true that you physically attacked your sister?" And Christina finally admitted, "Yes. But it was because she provoked me." Turns out my Aunt Judith, who's a human resources director at a big company, had offered Christina a job interview like 2 weeks ago. Christina didn't have a stable job, was broke according to what I learned later, and this interview was her big opportunity. My aunt told her right there in front of everyone, "If you're capable of assaulting your own sister and then not having the decency to apologize for 6 years, then you're not the kind of person I want in my company." The interview offer is canceled. My parents and Christina left the venue furious, and I just stood there shaking because I couldn't believe what I had just done. My friends hugged me, told me I did the right thing, that it was very brave of me, but I didn't know whether to feel relieved or guilty. The party continued, but I wasn't in the same mood anymore. I couldn't stop thinking about Christina's face when my aunt canceled the interview, about how my parents looked at me with so much hatred before leaving. The next day, my mom called me screaming that because of me, Christina now had no chance of getting a job because the gossip about what happened at the shower had spread throughout the whole family, and everyone was talking about her. She told me I was an ungrateful daughter, that I was destroying my sister over something that happened years ago, that I should be ashamed. I hung up the phone and blocked them both. Her and my dad everywhere. Phone, social media, email, everything. About 2 weeks passed, and one afternoon I was at my apartment working from home when there was a knock at the door. I opened without checking who it was, and there they were, all three. My parents and Christina. My first reaction was to slam the door in their faces, but Christina put her foot in so I couldn't close it and said to me, "Please, Samantha, just give me 5 minutes. I'm begging you." Something in her voice, I don't know, sounded different, sounded genuine. So against my better judgment, I let them in. Christina sat on the couch and started talking. She told me that for the last 6 years, she had been denying she did anything wrong, that she had convinced my parents that I was overreacting, that she had built a whole narrative in her head where she was the victim. But after what happened at the bridal shower and seeing how the whole family reacted, how my aunt reacted, she finally had to face the truth. She told me with tears in her eyes, "I attacked you physically. I flirted with your boyfriend. And I never apologized because I was too proud to admit I was wrong. Our parents raised us competing for their love and attention, and I internalized that competition so much that when I saw you happy with someone who truly loved you, something inside me wanted to destroy that. It was horrible of me. It was abusive, it was unforgivable, and I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to say. I was literally speechless because in 6 years, never, not even once, had Christina admitted her responsibility in what happened. It was always, "You also said horrible things to me. You also provoked me." It was never, "I was wrong and I'm sorry." And there she was, finally saying it, finally taking complete responsibility without buts or justifications. My parents, on the other hand, started with their usual speech. "You both are to blame. You both said hurtful things. You both need to apologize." And I interrupted them and said, "No, this doesn't work like that. Christina physically assaulted me. Period. I may have said mean things to her, but words never justify physical violence ever. And you raised us making us compete since we were little girls. You made us believe that love was something we had to earn by being better than the other. You never taught us to be real sisters, only rivals." My dad called me dramatic, said I was being over the top, that all families have competition between siblings and that's normal. I told him no, that what they did wasn't normal, that it was harmful and toxic, and that if they couldn't see that, then frankly, I didn't want them in my life. My mom started crying, saying I was forcing her to choose between her daughters, and I responded, "Nobody's asking you to choose. I'm asking you to recognize your role in creating this situation. But apparently that's impossible for you." Christina then looked at me and said, "Look, I understand if you can never forgive me. I understand if you don't want me at your wedding. I understand if you prefer we have no contact. But I needed you to know that I finally understand what I did, that I'm seeking therapy, that I'm working on myself, and that I truly, truly am sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me today. I just wanted you to know." Something about that apology felt real, felt honest, felt like it came from a place of true remorse and not just wanting to fix things superficially. I told her, "I need time to process all this, but thank you for finally being honest." And then looking at my parents, I said, "You can leave. We have nothing more to talk about until you're willing to recognize your responsibility in this situation." My parents left offended, saying I was being unfair, that I was a bad daughter, all the typical things toxic parents say when their children finally set boundaries. Christina stayed a moment longer at the door and asked me, "Is there any chance I can come to your wedding?" And I honestly didn't know what to answer. I told her, "Let me think about it," and she nodded and left. During the following days, I couldn't stop thinking about the conversation. Tyler asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him I didn't know. That part of me wanted to maintain no contact because it was safer, easier, but another part of me remembered the little girl who played with her sister before our parents turned us into enemies. I finally decided to call Christina and told her, "You can come to my wedding, but I want you to know this doesn't mean everything is automatically forgiven. It means I'm willing to try to rebuild something. But it's going to take time." Christina thanked me crying and promised me she was going to keep working on herself, that she understood trust is earned with actions, not words. I told her our parents weren't invited, that I had made the decision to cut contact with them until they could see things clearly, and she told me she understood, that she was also setting boundaries with them because she had finally understood how much damage their way of raising us caused. My parents sent me an email last week saying they weren't going to attend my wedding, that it was a shame what I was doing, that I was destroying the family, that someday I was going to regret it. I responded telling them that the family was already destroyed long before I set boundaries, that their inability to see their responsibility in creating this situation only confirms I made the right decision, and that I love them, but I can't have them in my life if they're not willing to change. The wedding was 2 weeks ago. Christina went. She behaved amazingly, helped me with last-minute things, met Tyler again and apologized to him for her behavior from 6 years ago. And he forgave her too. My parents didn't go, obviously. And there was a moment during the ceremony where I looked at the empty spot where they should have been sitting and felt something weird. Not exactly sadness, but not relief either. Like a mixture of both. But then I looked at Tyler waiting for me at the altar, at my true friends and family who support me celebrating with us, at Christina, smiling at me from her seat with tears in her eyes, and I thought, this is enough. This is real. Now, Christina and I talk like twice a week. It's weird. It's awkward sometimes. We have to learn to relate in a healthy way after a lifetime of competition, but we're trying. She tells me about her therapy. I tell her about mine because, yes, I also started therapy to process all this, and little by little we're building something that looks more like a real sister relationship. Is it perfect? No. Do I wake up some days wondering if I made the right decision? Letting her back into my life? Yes. Do I feel guilty about exposing her in front of the whole family? Sometimes. But I also know that keeping that secret for more years wouldn't have helped anyone, and that finally telling the truth was what allowed us both to face the reality of our relationship. My parents still aren't talking to me. Every now and then I get a message from some relative saying I should forgive them, that they're my parents and deserve to be in my life. But the truth is, I'm not ready for that, and maybe I never will be. Christina says they're also starting therapy but still don't recognize their role in our rivalry. They keep insisting they just wanted us to be successful and that we're the ones exaggerating everything. Maybe someday they'll come to understand it. Maybe not. But I can't wait my whole life for them to change. What I do know is that Tyler and I started our married life without that weight of having to pretend my family was functional, without having to navigate awkward dinners where my parents compared us, without having to worry about Christina trying something again. And that, after all, is worth more than maintaining the superficial peace we had for years.